Hi, I'm Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce Communications Director Dan Smith, here with our CEO, Bob Duffy, for the July BobCast. Bob, not quite the summer we were hoping for this year.
Dan, today marks in July. We are halfway through a year we all want to forget. So I think the sooner we can get through with 2020, the better, and look on at 2021. But in spite of that, I think this region, this community, and our chamber have done extraordinary work throughout the pandemic, going back to March.
Yeah, I did want to talk about that. We're 4 months now into pandemic protocols. What are your just overall general impressions of how Rochester Chamber has handled the situation, and then we'll get into how you've seen the community respond. First, the chamber.
I don't think our chamber could have done more work over the last 4 months. Aside from our regular chamber duties, we also had duties with the control room, with all the regional teams. I think all of our chamber teammates, everyone in the organization has done an extraordinary job communicating, getting information out, supporting the efforts of reopening. The reopening process certainly has been methodical. Some of it may have been too slow. It has proven out to be a big success given the numbers, especially in comparison to other states that are seeing a resurgence now. So that said, I could not be prouder of this organization, how it has handled things. We've worked primarily remotely going back to by mid-March. And every day there's been nothing but just great service. We have answered thousands of emails, phone calls, requests going back to that time. They've slowed down somewhat in the last couple of weeks, thank God. They are still coming in, but we try to be a resource, a go-to resource for our members and the general community. We've tried to post, as you have, and our team posting information on our website, answering calls, trying to interpret guidelines, interpret questions, and most importantly, advocate for our businesses. And one thing I want to say, I somewhat take exception when people think we don't advocate. My view of advocacy is not getting to a microphone and criticizing or lobbing the proverbial grenades at elected officials or leaders. That gets you nowhere. It gets you a headline. It gets you a little attention at the 6 o'clock news. It gets you no results because whoever is a target of your verbiage in that particular situation will not forget, and I will guarantee you're not going to move the needle. What we do is lobby, really in a way advocate relentlessly behind the scenes. I would say if you speak to anyone in the governor's team, including the governor or members of local officials, I think we can sometimes be a little pain in the back end because we are constantly calling and asking, but our job is to advocate and not advocate publicly, to go behind the scenes. We don't jump up and take credit for what we do. We just try and connect people. We try and get information to the governor's team. Information I think is critically important. We have forwarded more plans, more specific plans for businesses from malls and fitness centers down to mom and pop shops going back to March. We have taken feedback from our members in this community and gotten into the hands of the governor's team. They have used that consistently. Without going into specifics, time and time again, the governor and the governor's team have come out with guidelines, updates, things that have happened, additions that I honestly believe and know for a fact have come in part with what we have done to advocate and bring in that information to their attention. I know the air control room is how they operate, and they all do a very good job. But I don't think anybody has put the information forward like we do, and that's advocacy. Again, don't ever interpret advocacy for what's a headline in a newspaper or a headline story in the news. It's easy to say things, to talk tough, and to sometimes, in many ways, I've seen people be absolutely disrespectful, trying to advocate for certain things. And in the end, that does not work. I think respect, relentlessness, data carries the day. And the most important thing are relationships. When you have a relationship of trust or friendship or a colleague that you work with, I'm not saying you get your way. You don't get your way all the time. You might not get your way half the time. But clearly you'll have a chance to get them to listen, to understand that you're really trying to do the best thing you can to brief them and also to represent your members. And that really goes for our federal leaders, our state leaders, our local leaders, and really at all levels of government, with few exceptions anywhere in this region, around the state and beyond. People have been great. We understand the frustration, and my sense is don't add to frustration by being disrespectful. We all are frustrated, everybody is. In terms of our control room, I want to reinforce, we don't make decisions. I am asked constantly to open this or open that. That is not my job or my responsibility. I can't do that. When you have an executive order that's closing or limiting certain activities, that comes from the governor, or it may come from a higher power in terms of court system. But right now, the governor's executive orders consistently have been followed. And for those that have been frustrated or those think we don't move fast enough or we should reopen quickly, I always say, look to Florida and Texas and Arizona and California and all the states right now that are seeing this huge resurgence in cases. Where New York has started very high and just consistently have come down week after week after week. The key thing is we do not want to go back up. So face masks, distancing, hand hygiene. Don't put your hands in your face, your nose, your mouth. Keep your distance from people. Wearing a mask is not a macho thing. I've been an alpha male my whole life. I hate wearing a mask. I wear a mask. I wear it every single day. And the good thing is I see people everywhere I go wearing masks with absolutely few, if any, exceptions. And that's the reason the Finger Lakes region has been number one every time the governor's announced an opening. We've been number one. We've been contacted first. Why? Because this region has worked together as a team. I have great respect for the leadership in government, hospital systems across this entire region, how they work together, and most importantly, for the residents and citizens of the entire 9-county region, who even at great pain themselves have followed these guidelines, followed these regulations, really taken precautions. That's why we are where we are today, and we cannot let up. We don't want to go back again. I do not want to go back and have to tell anybody they can't open or have to close. We want to look ahead, and we keep that path going. We keep the momentum going by just following the guidelines, being patient, and hopefully getting through this very, very difficult year and looking ahead to a much brighter future.
And what have you seen as far as the thoughts on the Chamber's reaction? And this goes to the business community as a whole, how the Chamber and the business community have embraced technology in getting through this. Like what we're doing right now, this Zoom interview, something we never would have thought about 5 months ago.
Well, Dan, I think the technology and the circumstances have really brought us to this place where right now, as we do today, we're on Zoom meetings. Most days for me are endless Zoom meetings. But you know what? I could do 5, 6, 7, 8 or more in a day sitting at my desk or my laptop as opposed to getting in a car and traveling. We're saving money. We're being safe. We're keeping social distancing. We're communicating. We're getting the information across. And I do believe this is the way for the future because we're all looking at some severe financial challenges, all of us, and every business, with a few exceptions. So you save money in travel, expenses, things like that by working remotely. And so I do believe embracing the current technology that we have and how we've used this, we're getting into habits. And I'm an old Stephen Covey fan. Many years ago, teaching the 7 habits. Anything you do for, I believe it's 28 straight days, becomes a habit. You want to get up early in the morning at 5 o'clock, you do it for 28 straight days, it's a habit. Well, I think we've really created a number of habits over the last 4 months throughout this pandemic that I do believe will stand the test of time and continue.
And about Rochester Chamber events, we're thinking about potential for the top 100 coming up in November. It's unknown where we'll be standing then. We've switched to virtual events. Do you see perhaps a hybrid of the two moving forward?
People would love to get together again, want to get back, and I think the personal touch and the passion you have at a meeting or event is great to see. Well, given the circumstances today and given the health concerns, what Susan George and our events team have done has been extraordinary. And we have events, we have webinars, we are getting information out to people. They could be at their desktop like we are today, getting information, participating in a webinar, having a meeting, getting things they need, facts they need, follow through information, getting it quickly. And again, I don't see events in person going away in totality, but I do think you'll see, even when we have a vaccine and perhaps the pandemic concerns are abated, you'll see a lot more events continuing in the future online because they're cost effective, they save time, they save money. We all have the same amount of time every day. We want to conserve it and use it at the best of our ability. And I do think this technology is great. But we all yearn to get back. I'm a lifelong Buffalo Bills fan. I can't imagine watching a game this fall with no fans in the audience, or a concert with no one in the audience, no fans, or a top 100, which, as you know, for as long as I can remember, fills the convention center every year. We get close to 2,000 people in there. It is a party, a celebration of success for our businesses. We can do it remotely, and it might help a little bit this year if we're forced to. But I do want to get back to time where we can get to a place and celebrate. So my sense for the future, it will be a hybrid, but hopefully those big impactful events at some point we'll get back to having those in person and really engaging those relationships.
Now, when we went into pandemic protocols back in March and March into April, Rochester Chamber paused its dues invoicing for members to give them a break. We knew businesses were feeling the pain. We're now starting to reissue invoices. We're going to start billing again. Tell us about the decision behind that and what members should know about it.
Well, clearly going back to March, we recognized that the pain that people had when businesses closed, people were laid off, furloughed, the unemployment lines were very, very long. It was not the appropriate time ever to add anybody's burden or pain by sending an invoice. We are in business like those businesses. We have probably close to 50 employees here. We have certainly suffered financially like other businesses have, and not because of anything wrong. We have done, in my mind and my view, everything right since March, but we just felt we could not add to the pain of our members, so we've held off invoices. We're going to resume those in mid to late July. We're in phase 4, so we thought it's the time to do that. And I do think, by and large, we're a membership organization. People realize what we've done. I have really great respect for Kevin Donahue, our membership director, his teammate Stephanie Helfer. One of the things they did early on in March, that they really reached out to every single one of our members individually to offer help. The things that this organization has done, and not only membership, but really the entire organization, handing out masks for free, helping people, I think above and beyond, not just the members, but the overall community. We passed out thousands of masks to churches through our city to give to people that might not have access to those. So we really try to do our part with corporate social responsibility. We've hung on, but again, like any business, we are going through our financial situation right now, and we're no different than anybody else. It's very tough. It's very challenging. But like every business that is suffering the same way, they did nothing wrong either. They were really forced to close. We were forced to make changes. So we're all in the same boat, and we feel that same pain. But it is time to try and get back on track. And so they'll be going out. We'll have send a letter out to our members. But really, going back to March, April, May, June, we just passed and absorbed the hit internally here, but chose not to send invoices out, not to add to anybody's pain. And to our members, I want to thank them because even in spite of this, some members have already sent dues in and supported us in other ways. But it was a choice we made. We get it. We understand it. But we want people to know that come mid to late July, we have no choice but to start sending those back out.
Time now to jump into the BobCast Mailbag for July. And you'll never guess what the mail's about, Bob. Phase 4.
Yeah.
Let me just, we're into phase 4, but we've learned that it's becoming a graduated phase. Some things aren't open yet. Some of the main ones that we're getting questions about through the mailbag, I'll just name them each one by one, and you can give your thoughts on them. Gyms.
Yeah, gyms and fitness centers. I'll go on record. I'm a gym rat. I don't think I've gone more than 2 or 3 days without going to a gym and working out since I was probably 15 years old. And I've not been to a gym since I think the very beginning of March, probably the first week. I miss it. Everybody misses it. It also is a hot spot for infections. The governor has not approved the opening of fitness centers yet. I do believe we are close. I have forwarded some outstanding plans of gyms and fitness centers, from personal training up to the large facilities like the YMCA, directly to the governor's team. They are very thoughtful, very comprehensive. Right now, what the governor's team are struggling with is opening up, again, some areas too soon. We might get back to the same point with the spread of the infection and the virus. I believe we're close. It won't be the same as a full reopening. My sense is when the governor comes out with guidelines, it'll be one of those gradations where it may start with certain capacity levels, but you're going to see changes in those gyms and fitness centers. I've seen the plans already, very thoughtful, very comprehensive about separation, about disinfecting, and again, face coverings. But I might add to, Dan, for all the gyms I've been in, it is a common courtesy and etiquette in a gym. When you use a machine, you get up, you wipe it off with disinfectant. This is pre-pandemic. I've always done it. People I've seen at gyms, with few exceptions, always do it. Wipe the equipment right off for next person coming on. It's a nice thing to do, and it'll be something that'll be repeated, maybe to a different level in the future. It won't be something that's maybe left up to individual gym goers. It'll be mandatory. It'll be different, but it's coming. And I do believe that in the next couple of weeks, we'll hear something from the governor's team about when that will happen.
And many, many emails for the next one. I'm going to put these two together and you can address them at the same time. Both reopening of schools in the fall, the potential for that, and scholastic sports in the summer, training and games.
Schools are being looked at right now. There is, again, every district that is putting together plans that have to be approved. There's a team at the state level looking at reimagining education in the future. The governor was quoted recently as saying he's made no decisions yet, not sure how it will look. I've seen many different renditions on these plans. Some are like going back to kindergarten, morning classes, afternoon classes, lowering the density in schools, having lunches in your room, homeroom, as opposed to going to a cafeteria. Sports, I'm not sure, a lot more contact. I'm thinking of football, lacrosse, soccer, a lot of opportunities out there for a lot of physical contact. I'm sure we'll get back to those at some point. But then I look at the sports nationally. The Red Wings are not playing this year because Major League Baseball has stopped minor league baseball this year. The NBA has not resumed its season yet. The NFL does not know. They're looking at perhaps stadiums that don't have fans in them, but even now they're not even planning on going back to training camp yet as a group. And the list goes on and on. So it's not just Rochester or New York State. It's really the entire country and the globe. And there's a lot of caution. And I do believe with the spikes in many states, especially in the South and out West, it may slow down some of these decisions coming forth in phase 4. So schools, there'll be decisions, I would think, sometime probably in July and into August for school year. Sports, I think those training camps usually start in August. My sense is there'll be guidance and decisions by then. But I would not want to go out and say everything is going to go back to normal. I don't know. The governor's not made his decisions yet. I'll defer to him and his team to make those. But I would not anticipate things going back to absolute normal yet. A lot of work to be done, a lot of data to be examined, and we should know in the next few weeks.
And the final topic we're receiving a good deal of email on are the malls.
Yep. Malls are a big thing. Tom Wilmot is a board member of ours. Wilmot is a huge mall developer and owner here in Rochester. The money they're losing every month is just astronomical. The stores and malls can open if they have outside access. So some stores, our malls here can open if there is an outdoor access, not using the common area. I was on a call with Mr. Wilmot this past week. I've been on calls with the governor's office. Right now, Governor Cuomo has asked that malls examine a filtration system, and they're looking at that right now. I believe a large mall in Long Island has done that already. I don't know the costs, but the mall owners are looking at that right now. I have suggested perhaps a tax incentive or some assistance, because my sense is it's not a cheap enterprise to put that in. Especially a large mall. They look at HVA systems for, say, Eastview or Greasetown Mall. They're huge, especially Eastview, one of the biggest malls you probably find in this part of the state and country. I'm not sure what cost it would be, but Mr. Wilmot and his team are embracing that, looking at getting back open again. And you think of the stores right now that have no outside access, that are really closed. And my sense is a lot of these malls are losing some of those stores that won't come back. That means no rent, no payments, and the malls still have to pay their taxes, their rents, their costs. So overall, it's a loss for everybody. And I don't want to give the figure out publicly, but Mr. Wilmot has shared what Wilmot is losing right now monthly, the two malls here. It's hard to imagine any business sustaining those losses for a long period of time. So I know the governor's team is working on that. I've communicated with the governor's office directly on this several times. Again, we advocate very strongly for all these businesses. I don't say these things publicly, but I'll tell you that the governor's office has listened. They've followed up. They're going through their due diligence right now. And again, I worry about some of the resurgence of the virus in the South. Just their record cases every day, Florida, Texas, out in California again. California started off they went down, they're going right back up. And this is not a second wave. This is really things happening right now. It is primarily gatherings, it's bars, it's concerts in other areas of the country. It's worship services where people are singing, where they're projecting their voices out in really closed, confined spaces. And that's how the virus is spreading. So these are the things the governor's team is examining. The governor's responsible for the entire state. And it's easy to criticize. It's easy to take issue. Very hard to lose money like many businesses are. But what the governor does not want is what we're seeing right now in other states. We've come a long ways. We do not want to go back. So I believe, again, those businesses, the malls, the fitness centers and gyms, and the schools, there will be some form of reopening. It may look far different than what they look like when they closed, but I do think everybody is working hard trying to get there, but get there safely.
And finally, as we move through the summer, July into August, what are your general thoughts, your message to the business community and the community at large?
Well, I think overall, my first message is congratulations and thank you for all the support you've given us, you've given this region in following the guidelines. I thank you for absorbing the losses that you've gone through and your many outstanding employees who have been furloughed, may have lost their jobs, gone on unemployment, really suffered through no fault of their own over the last 4 months. This is my first and really our first pandemic. It has not been an experience I ever want to repeat again. But this region has been very special. It always has been. And I don't mind saying, I served with the state for 4 years with the governor. I didn't want to serve a second term. I want to come back home. I'm an upstate boy. I'm a Finger Lakes boy. This is my home here. And I love it for a reason. And I think we've shown that in the last 4 months why this place is special. We have a control room of Democrats and Republicans, far more Republicans than Democrats. And guess what? We work seamlessly together every single day. We meet, we discuss. Do we agree on every single thing? Probably not, but we work as a team, and the leadership we've shown, bipartisan throughout this 9-county region, makes me proud at a time when people fight that. People think you have to fight all the time, these parties, and I'm not a partisan person by any stretch, but I will tell you what, the elected officials have really come together in this region and put partisan politics aside with few, if any, exceptions, and worked as a team. That's a big part of it. And again, for the businesses, their employees, and the residents who have, again, kept their distance, stayed home when they had to, wore masks in public, washed their hands, followed the guidelines, followed Dr. Mendoza's litany of things we should do every day. That's why we are where we are today. And the Finger Lakes has been #1 in the announcements. We've hit our mark every single time, all 4 phases, right there each time. We're neighbors like in Buffalo. They have not. Buffalo's been behind us. Other parts of the state behind. Downstate, way behind. But the Finger Lakes has been there. And I think people should feel proud. It's not by accident. It's not by design. It's because people have listened. People have followed through. They've worked together. Our hospital systems, and like many businesses in the marketplace, they compete. Well, I'm here to tell you for the last 4 months, I've seen nothing but seamless teamwork, collaboration here between Rock Regional and URMC. It'll make anybody proud. 2 great hospital systems. We have a great healthcare community here. And those frontline heroes that work for those systems, and our nursing homes and our paramedics and EMTs and everybody else has been the front lines for the last 4 months. They have brought us to this point through extraordinary care and service, and really all our first responders. So I think everybody deserves to pat themselves on the back for where we are. We're never where we want to be. I'm sure I am the official head of the complaint department here for the region. So, calls and emails I get, I always answer them much more respectfully than sometimes I get them. But the bottom line is I understand the frustration. I understand the pain. We're all feeling it. But I also see light at the end of the tunnel. And that light is there because of the collaboration, teamwork, and the commitment of people in this region who have not just complained, who have jumped in, helped out, followed through, and as tough as it was, follow those guidelines to the letter. And that's why the Finger Lakes region and Rochester as hub has been, really it's where we are today, why we are today, and why we are moving along. And I do believe that momentum is not going to stop.
All right, Bob, thanks for sharing today.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good day.